All right, everyone. We are on episode 23 of the Conquer the Mind podcast. I'm very excited. We have Dylan DeGroat, a franchise developer of Joshua Tree Experts. I actually had the privilege to go out to Joshua Tree Experts and meet with Dylan and the whole corporate team when I actually became a broker a couple months ago and got to meet with the executive team. And this is just such a valuable part of being a broker where we work with these organizations that already have, decades and decades of experience filtering out the top franchises. But when I personally go meet with the franchise, I meet with the team, it gives me that comfort when I'm introducing candidates to just understand who I'm talking to. And for me personally, I literally will not recommend a candidate to a franchise unless I specifically know the people at that franchise. I know the leadership team and I know they're in good hands with that leadership team. So Dylan, I know they're in good hands when I hand a potential candidate off to you. So thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today. I'm excited to dive into your background and how you got into franchising, and maybe we can help some candidates along the way.
Absolutely. Well, I just want to say thank you very much, Josh, for, allowing me to come on here, talk with you. I love talking about franchising in general, so I never turn that opportunity down. Also appreciate you being on my podcast. That was such a great episode going on the happy hour. Excited to talk to you today. I've been looking forward to this, and I like what you're doing in the industry. You're doing it right. So I just want to give you a shout out. So anybody who's even listening to this, take into consideration that not only are you going to be in good hands with a brand that he's going to recommend you to go to, you're going to be in good hands just being with Josh. Like, you do it right. You stay connected. You're going through the process the way that I would go through the process myself. So I appreciate that. And, you're doing a very good job. So great job, man. Props to you. So I, like most people, got into franchising on accident. I think a lot of people in the industry sort of find themselves just in a place where they accidentally find out about, either franchise development, franchise consulting, or just being a franchisee in general. So I started with Joshua Tree Experts 6 years ago. But I want to fast forward before that and tell you a little bit about what I was doing before I even got into franchising.
I really want to dive into that too. All about the mindset before franchising. I'm super excited to hear about your story.
Yeah. So basically, I went to college. I was at Ball State University in Muncie, Indiana. I graduated there. I got a degree in criminal justice because I was lazy and I was like, you know what? Criminal justice is something I don't have to be super smart about. I actually enjoy. I was in the military. It made sense. I didn't have to do like anatomy and stuff like that. So I was like, all right, criminal justice it is. So I got out of that and I did child services. So I was a Department of Child Services caseworker for Delaware County, Indiana, for about 2 years. And during that time, I found out a lot about myself. When you're working with families, you find out really how to communicate well, how to find what is called in the business as an underlying need, right? In the franchise industry, we call that the why. In that industry, they call it the underlying need. Like, why is something happening? What is the issue? During that time, I found that wasn't really a big passion of mine. I was young and I just wasn't ready to take on a lot of responsibility in the case of, having to put these families back together, right? So that was a lot for me. And, being a young guy, I was like, I think I need more experience in understanding myself before I can really dive in and help these people. I did help people. I got kids back in homes, but, it was tough, especially only being 23 years old. So I was applying to be a cop in the area during that time. And I finally did get accepted to the Muncie Police Department. So I started with them, started training with them. Things happened in my family. My brother, unfortunately, he actually passed away. He was 19 years old, got into a motorcycle accident during the time that I was a police officer. And that was a tough moment in my life. And I thought to myself, you know what, Dylan, you're unhappy in Indiana, living on your own. I was a single guy. I was out there doing my thing, being a cop. It was great. But I was unhappy, right? Because I missed my, family back here in Pennsylvania. And my mom, obviously very upset. She just lost her youngest child. He was only 19.
Yeah.
So it was a very tough time for our family during that time.
Mm.
And so my thought was, you know what? If I move to Pennsylvania, at least then my mom is happy. Like that
Mm.
will make my mom happier.
Yeah.
So I decided, you know what? Whatever. So I text Josh. Josh Malik, by the way,
Yeah.
is the founder of Joshua Tree Experts. So just to kind of preface this, Josh is my uncle.
Mm.
Josh, he's been my role model since I was born. He's always been the entrepreneur in our family. He's always been the guy who, hey, he snowboarded, he dirt bike. Dude raced dirt bikes and for like 5-6 years, like professionally almost.
Yeah.
So he's always been like that. You know, I was always an outdoorsy guy. He was always that guy who I looked up to, and just so happened he was my uncle. So during that transition, when I decided to move to Pennsylvania, I text Josh and I was like, look, man, I just need a job. And so I was like, I want to become a cop out there. I was going to do the cop thing in Pennsylvania. And it takes about a year, even with the prior experience, it takes about a year to get on another police force. So I text Josh and he said, absolutely great news. I just started doing lawn care. And I said, sounds awesome. What the heck does that mean? What am I doing? So I was like, I was thinking I was going to come out and start mowing and stuff like that. And I was like, whatever, I'll do that. I'll put some headphones on and mow some grass if I need to. But when I got here, I realized that it was much more than that, right? You know, he had just introduced the lawn care, which is like the fertilization, aeration, weed management. I found a lot of passion in that. I love being
Yeah.
outside. It was enjoyable for me. You know, I love listening to podcasts, just like this one. That's why I do my own podcast. Why I like being on podcast. So it was just great. I got to interact with clients, and it was cool. During about the first 6 months of being at Joshua Tree, Josh and me went on kind of a ride. It was like a strategic planning, what's your future actually look like ride. And we talked about, you know, what he wanted to do with Joshua Tree Experts
Mhm.
and how he wanted to grow it to this, you know, nationwide premier tree lawn pest control brand. And I was
Yeah.
like, you know what? And he said, Dylan, this is what I want you to do. He's like, I want you to take that ride with me. I want you to go on that and go through that adventure with me during this process. And my first thought to myself was, when you're, you know, the person you look up to tells you to bet on them, you take
Mhm.
that bet every single time. So I pulled all my applications for all the police jobs and I decided to stick out with Joshua Tree.
My God.
So yeah, so
That's
that's
awesome.
how
You've
I
thrown
got
a lot
here.
at me. That's an incredible story. Wow. Going from child services, being in the Army National Guard, becoming a cop, dealing with all those family instances as well,
Yeah.
like staying mentally strong through all of that, like going back, being with your family, like that's an impressive story. I'm sure, for me personally, just kind of, we don't have to talk about it as much, but, I lost a close friend to suicide in college and it took me years to even like get over that. Like, he was always like the happiest person I'd ever met, always
Hmm.
smiling. And like, when it happened, I was like, wow, that could literally be anyone. And the fact when you
Yeah.
don't get to say goodbye to someone, I think is one of the hardest things. And
Hmm.
no one should have to go through that by any means, but just
Yeah.
like dealing with kind of the mindset and all of that, like, that's just so powerful that you're able to get to the other side because so many people, something like that happens. It's so hard to see the grass on the other side and understand,
Hmm.
why is this happening to me? We
Yeah.
don't have to talk about it, but I'd be curious just how you're, when I saw you in Pennsylvania, similar to my friend that, I lost, like you're one of the happiest people I'd ever seen. Never really be able to tell that you've had something like that happen to you. Do you have like
Yeah.
a mindset that you go through on like a daily basis to stay like mentally strong?
I can be honest with you. I am a firm believer in the fact that like, and this is gonna sound a little tough and harsh, but like I think everything happens for a reason, like truly and
Mm.
like actually, right?
Yeah.
You know, you can sit there and allow something to happen to you and just be
Mm.
upset about it, or you can use that as motivation, as fuel to achieve what's next, right?
Mm.
And in my mind, if I just sit there, I'm letting that thing defeat me, right? I'm letting
Yeah.
that beat me up. I don't want to say per se lose control of that.
Yeah.
But really, I want to own my own ability to where I'm going next, right?
Mm.
And if I allow that, whatever's making me upset or, you know, down in that moment, if I allow that to own me, then I'm never going to get to that
Mhm.
over that, right? You're always going to
Yeah.
come back. It's going to be this vicious cycle of coming back and being upset, like
Yeah.
the 5 stages of grief or whatever. If you get
Mhm.
stuck, you can just keep going back and forth and back and forth. So me, I'm all about, one of the things I like to do is I'm all about consistency, right?
Mhm.
Consistency is like the one of the most important things in my life. Because whether it's health related, mental health related, or just, I mean, just in general, like your actual work day.
Yeah.
I like to build consistency in my day. I know that I wake up at this time, I go to the gym at this time, I eat this much food, I eat these many calories. Like I'm very specific and detail oriented in that sense,
Yeah.
um, which gives me that control. So I guess in a
Oh,
sense, I am a little bit controlling about my own life. And
yeah.
so in that sense, to that regard, it's probably one of those things that I've really found my strong ability is if I can control those things, I can elect to choose how my future is going. You know what I'm
Oh,
saying?
no,
Um,
yeah. I know
yeah.
exactly what
So
you're saying.
yeah, and like it is tough. I mean, it sounds like you've been through a very similar, instance, especially with your friend. When my brother, the one thing that I realized, like I said, I knew that there was really nothing that, other than just like going through those grief stages, there was nothing that I was going to do that was just going to make him happy pill, right? Like I wasn't just
Yeah.
instantly going to be over this, but
Mm.
I knew that like I could at least assist other people in getting through those stages if I was with them or,
Mm.
had consistent contact. And that's why I ultimately decided to move to Pennsylvania, was because I knew if I help my mom, that will build consistency in her life, which will then
Mm.
allow her to slowly, get over that. And I knew I could do that on my own. I'm pretty mentally strong in that aspect.
Yeah.
Like you said, I've been in the military. I've lost friends there.
Mm.
So, it's one of those things you learn how to, it's one thing that you don't want to have to learn, but you do learn it through, the more difficulties you have in life, you absolutely do learn how to get over them.
Mm.
Um, but at the end of the day, don't let, you know, fear, don't let, you know, your current situation get in front of what you want to get to, right? I
Mm.
think that's the most important thing. So, yeah, hopefully that answers your question. I kind of rambled
No,
there.
that I think if anyone's like struggling with any event and doesn't even have to be a loss of a loved one, literally just the point of the podcast, like you're trying to find your why in life.
Yeah.
My thought is if you don't have a why in life, you're just going through the motions and you're very lost. So I think that, if you're trying to find your why, you are struggling. Like, a couple of years ago, I've been there in that same position, and that is
Mhm.
incredible advice to anyone. And, one of my mentors I listen to, Ed Milet, he always says, things don't happen to you, they happen for you. And you can
Mhm.
take even negative instances or positive instances because, a lot of my greatest mentors, they were shaped by like three very negative events or something, maybe like a negative interaction with their parent or something like
Mhm.
that. So it's really kind of what you make of these different events, whether it's a positive, negative event. And I really like your point about having consistency because that was my biggest issue too when, it was
Mhm.
4, 5, 6 years ago and I lost someone and I didn't have consistency in my daily schedule. And first off, I didn't have that why statement. So I was kind of just going through the motions. But I think when you have that schedule that you alluded to, you're not just simply kind of waiting for like a day, someone to reach out to you for something to happen, a new
Mhm.
episode on Netflix to drop, for example. But when you
Yeah.
have consistency and you have your why figured out, you wake up every day, like we're doing a podcast at 8 a.m. on a Monday morning, and we're both fired up to be doing this. So it's
Yeah.
like we have our why, we have consistency, and each day we build out that schedule. So there's going to be good days. There's obviously going to be a lot of tough days as well. But when you have that
Mhm.
schedule and you have that why figured out, you're kind of going along that mission and that purpose. So Dylan, I appreciate your openness and sharing with that. I think people will get a lot of knowledge out of that. And kind of
Yeah.
going back to your story, something that I find really interesting is, your uncle with Josh was literally like
Yeah.
a really big mentor of you. But I think, that's one of the things I see with my generation specifically. One of our biggest issues is that we all want to do things ourselves. We all want to be the boss. We all want to be the CEO. We don't want to
Mhm.
take advice from like the older generations we all just think like we have it all figured out. We have social media, we think we can hit record and we have all the answers and everyone wants to listen to us talk. But I think it's so powerful. For me personally, once I surrounded myself with successful people that are literally doing the things that I want to do,
Mhm.
having success in social media, having success in marketing, having success in franchising, once I surrounded myself with those people, it makes my journey a lot easier. And, getting to
Mhm.
meet with people like yourself in Philadelphia and really immerse myself with emerging brands and new opportunities, like I think that is really powerful. Can you talk to us about, why did you want to kind of surround yourself with a mentor? What did you see in Josh that you were like, this is something I could really build off of rather than, trying to do something from scratch by yourself? Why did you want to kind of surround yourself in that environment?
Yeah, so I mean, it kind of goes to like I'm franchising my own life, right? So like I look at Josh and I'm like, man, that is just somebody I want to be like, right? Like, and it's honest to God, it's really that simple. And so I look at Josh like before he got into franchising, he had this like really awesome life. He was a business owner. He went out, he mountain biked, he snowboarded. And I'm like, he went and did all these crazy things that he had this beautiful home and all those things. I'm like, I like that lifestyle, the
Yeah.
lifestyle he was leading and, his ability to do the things that he enjoyed doing in his life. He hung out, with his daughter, my cousin Madison. He was very involved in her life. And I looked at that and I said, those are things that I want to have when I'm, at the age of, 35, 40. I want to be able to do those things as well. And
Yeah.
so, in a sense, I said, how do I take his life, manipulate it,
Yeah.
do the same thing, but then do it myself? So having him has been, as a mentor specifically, has been
Mhm.
probably one of the biggest improvements in my life, both personally and professionally.
Yeah.
Um, Josh is he's a hard ass worker. I don't know anybody outside of like this out of anything who works as hard as that guy does.
Yeah.
He's always thinking, he's got that entrepreneurial mindset, right? It's like, oh,
Yeah.
something's always clicking in his head. So we follow the EOS system, the entrepreneurial operating system.
Okay.
Um, which if you're thinking about getting into business ownership, I highly recommend checking that out because that teaches you how to structure a company, right?
Mhm.
It's very beneficial. So one of the things that Josh is the visionary of the business, right? Which means he could bring 30 ideas to the table every week, and 29 of them could be terrible, right?
Yeah.
They're just not great ideas. But it's the one idea
Yeah.
that worked that the team says, you know what, we can do that. And then the implementer, who's the second guy in charge, his name is Matt Spees, he then takes that idea and implements it, right? We build strategy around it. We build process, procedure. That's how the company grows and the vision grows, right? So
Mhm.
coming back to, I want to be the implementer of my own life, but I
Yeah.
want to like I'm not a visionary, right? I can't be that creative and come up with 30 some ideas in my
Yeah.
life. But Josh is still that visionary. So he can almost be a visionary for not only his life, but for those that he, affects and changes and surrounds. He can be a visionary for their lives as well, almost like a business coach.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to be the implementer of my own life. And
Yeah.
so I take his crazy ideas and I say, hey, what works for me? What can I
Right.
do? And I see, I test a lot of stuff out. I always say, we have a very unique perspective in the Western world, right? Which is like if you try something and fail, it's like awesome, good job, right? That's like good for you for trying. And I think
Mhm.
that it's like we have this like failure means that you learn something, and I love
Yeah.
that mindset because if you get out there and you allow fear to never allow you to try something different, you're always going to be stuck doing the same thing, right?
Mhm.
But when you allow fear in and you allow, failure to come in, it really changes everything about your perspective of who you are as a person even.
Mhm.
Um, so it's cool. I enjoy it. Like, yeah. So I mean
No,
that's pretty much it.
no, that's fascinating, Dylan. I really like the point on the Western culture, and that's something I see too in society where we kind of
Yeah.
just give people a pat on the back for just trying things. The biggest thing over the last 5 years, I think, was like participation trophies, and like you're in
Yeah.
little league, you come in last place and you got to have a trophy to make them feel good. But what's so unfortunate for me is that, like I was saying earlier, with like the people I look up to, they all had these negative events happen. Like most of the
Hmm.
people I looked up to, they were the people that were like last in little league, or they got bullied on, or they had XYZ happen. And
Hmm.
I'm not saying people should get bullied, but I'm saying life happens, and you got to
Hmm.
figure out, if you baby someone to a point where you're giving them participation trophies, you're saying, bad things are
Yeah.
just never going to happen to you. I think it's going to be very tough in a couple of years when you are facing the real world, because, even growing up
Oh
for
yeah.
me, one of the things that I was kind of raised with, it's like, if you get good grades, you can get rewarded for that. You can kind of live the
Hmm.
life you want. But even, once you're in the work world, I can work super, super hard. I can literally work a 36-hour day, but that does not mean I'm going to get, those instant gratification results. I think we
Oh
have a
yeah.
society where we really need this instant gratification rather than understanding the law of compounding. It may take 2,
Hmm.
3 years to really experience that exponential growth that you're looking for. And that's why so
Yeah.
few people actually get to that point of success. And I loved everything that you said with, just like Josh, how he was that mentor and you took his lifestyle, you saw he was living the life you wanted. You say, what is he doing that works? What is he doing that I want to do a little bit differently? And you take that
Hmm.
all in, and you just observe it. And I can kind of tell like how connected you two are, because you're almost like speechless kind of talking about him, trying to find the words of how hardworking he is, how dedicated, how
Yeah.
motivated he is. And I could see that even when I was with him in person as well. And it's something where he's still a very personable person as well, where you wouldn't even be able to see like all that stuff that's going on behind the scenes, because he does present himself as, he's just a normal person that's very interactive with other people. And that creates
Hmm.
such a strong sense of culture where, you guys are building the foundations, the system, the processes that you mentioned, and you already
Hmm.
had the industry knowledge and the culture as well. So when you combine all of those elements, I think that's what makes such a great franchise system. So I thought what you said was really powerful, Dylan. So kind of diving a little bit, I think for a lot of people, this could be interesting because a lot of people transition from the military to franchising. I'd be
Yeah.
curious, kind of giving your background, are there any kind of skills or characteristics that you think have transferred well into your role in franchising, being a franchise developer, or even if someone's thinking about being a franchise owner, any skills that you think kind of translate?
Yeah. So absolutely. I can say this. The one thing about Joshua Tree that makes it a good opportunity for veterans specifically is how detail oriented a lot of veterans are,
Mhm.
right? So we're process oriented people. Give me an SOP that
Yeah.
shows me step by step how to do something and I will do it, right? We
Mhm.
go out and we get things done, right? Um and even if I have a vague set of instructions, I can still accomplish that mission, right? So
Yeah.
there's a lot of culture and core values specifically that work well for this,
Mhm.
um, for veterans specifically. And we actually have, if you check out treecarefranchising.com, we've got a bunch of blogs out there. We've got a bunch of letterheads. Well, sorry, what are they called? They're articles. There we go. About why, like we've done like interviews and stuff like that with like TV stations, stuff like that, to show why this is such a great opportunity.
Yeah.
Um, so one of the cool things, about being in that community is like one thing I do miss about the military is the camaraderie, right? I
Mhm.
miss that. The
Yeah.
brotherhood, the sisterhood, like everybody like goes out and just suffers together, right? Sometimes the some of my favorite moments of being in the military for the past 10 years were times that I was the most miserable, right?
Mhm.
But because there was an end result, right? We got out of
Yeah.
that. And now we look back and we laugh, right? We laugh and say, wow, like, can't believe we were complaining as much as we actually were. It wasn't that bad. And, funny things happen when you're just when you're gaining that type of, connection together.
Yeah.
And we're very much like that at Joshua Tree. We really are. Like
Mhm.
we are in so a lot of like there's tons of franchise systems out there, right? We are literally in the trenches with you, right? Because like we've been doing this for 18 years, right? We know how to market, we know how to sell, we know how to stay in touch with clients.
Mm.
on the lawn care, tree care, and pest control side. We know what we're doing there. Franchising is new to us, right? I'm not gonna shy away from that.
Mm.
We have five franchisees. We are learning every day something new about how to interact with new business owners, right?
Yeah.
Um, so it's something that we're right there in the trenches with you the whole way. And it really is, I'm sure that there's tons of other systems out there that are much like this. And that's why, places like BAI, they partner with brands who are
Mm.
going to support franchisees and not just here, pay some money and here's a business in a box, just go do it, right? We're
Mm.
actually going to not only train you, but we actually are there with you at your, like when you're launching your business, we have a team come out and actually train your employees as well as evaluate their abilities.
Yeah.
So, from everything from operations to marketing to finance and admin, like there is an expert here on this team in the corporate office that is in the trenches with you experiencing that.
Yeah.
So that way, in 3 to 4 years, we can look back and laugh and say, wow, remember when we were so young and look how successful become now.
Right.
Because we know that we can generate success in this business, right?
Mm.
This business speaks for itself. It's a $280 billion business when you combine all the industries.
Yeah.
That's what sets us apart, right? It's a massive industry. I mean, you think about it's tree care is like $31.8 billion. Lawn care, the landscape industry is like $160 billion industry, and the pest control industry is another like $70 billion industry. They're massive, right? So you have these three
Yeah.
entities that you can tap into.
Mm.
And that's what we love about this system in and of itself, is it's so unique that it doesn't, every franchise system that every partner we have is going to have a different layout of how their systems work, right?
Mm.
Or at least like what their best business is.
Yeah.
For us in the Lehigh Valley, in Pennsylvania, we do very well in tree care and lawn care. But
Mm.
somebody out in Arizona may do very well in lawn care and pest control.
Mm.
So they're still going to do tree care. They're still going to do what's called plant health care, which is a subdivision of tree care. But they might do better in the lawn care and the pest control. And what's nice about this system is this system allows you to do that, right? We
Yeah.
have franchisees that are coming into the system now that we already know are going to beat our numbers. Like they're going to. In 3 to 5 years, they'll probably be on track to, do better than we ever did.
Mm.
So it's exciting. But I
Yeah.
actually lost where I was going there. I kind of sorry about that.
No,
But
no worries. I think those are all really great points. And, you kind of talk about the camaraderie and the culture of
yeah.
Joshua Tree
Oh,
Experts.
right.
And
Yeah.
I think a really great point is your call center is literally the same location where you are at. So it's not some national call center that has no affiliation with the brand, just some 9 to 5
Mhm.
salaried worker. It's people that are boots on the ground with the franchise developer, with the founder. So they know the ins and outs of the business just as much
Mhm.
as anyone. So I think that's really powerful and talks about kind of the camaraderie of the culture where it's not just, 4 people in a corporate office making a bunch of decisions. It's, you have an actual team there building all these decisions.
Mhm.
People have a lead, people have questions, it's going right to you guys. So I think that's really interesting as well. So
Yeah.
kind of want to dive in. Can you, for anyone that doesn't know Joshua Tree Experts or anything about
Mhm.
the business model, we've kind of dove into it in bits and pieces. We kind of
Yeah.
understand, but could you give someone who doesn't know anything about Joshua Tree Experts, what is the high level? Where is revenue being derived, as you kind of alluded to?
Mhm.
What is kind of that high level overview of Joshua Tree Experts?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll kind of touch on, what makes us unique first, right?
Yeah.
So the biggest thing that makes us unique is we are in the landscape industry. We're in the green industry to make home environments safe, healthy, and beautiful, right? That
Mm.
is our mission. That is like why we are out there doing what we do. We do that through providing tree care, lawn care, and pest control. So those three departments, they break down into separate service lines. So tree care is pruning, reducing, and removal of trees. We
Mm.
do have a preservation aspect to our business, though. So we're
Okay.
not the company that somebody calls to do land clearing or, come and take out 50 trees. We
Mm.
want to build clients, right? A client is somebody who comes back continually. You can build recurring revenue through a client.
Yeah.
A customer is a one-off, right? So we don't ever call them customers. We call them clients.
Mm.
The
That's an
reason we
awesome
do that,
point. I love that. That's an
yeah,
awesome point.
So the reason we do that is because we have 3 service lines specifically that are all recurring revenue subscription-based systems. Those are plant healthcare, which is the first subdivision of tree care. Plant healthcare is ornamental tree and shrub spray and injection services. So that is one person going out treating for disease, insect infestation, or fertilizing, or different variation of treatments to trees and shrubs on a client's property.
Okay.
Then there's the lawn care aspect. The lawn care aspect is fertilization, aeration, weed management, right? It is not mowing, mulching. We're not doing leaf cleanup or anything like that. So it's kind of like I put this in comparison to, like, think about True Green when you think about plant, like, lawn care aspect. And then the pest control is fully exterior pest control. So we're not going inside of the home. We don't like to. The problem with going inside the home is having to, any business really that you have to go inside the home, the people have to be home, right? That is very annoying, and it's tough to get scheduling around sometimes. So we focus on the exterior of the home, building a perimeter barrier around the home so pests aren't getting in. And then what we also do inside of that service line is called mosquito, flea, and tick. Now, Josh, that in and of itself, mosquito, flea, and tick, is a separate franchise for other businesses. So there's businesses out there, you can look them up, there's tons of them that's what they do. They do mosquito, flea, and tick, and that's a franchise in and of itself, and it's a profitable franchise. That is like one component of, like, our entire service line. So there's so many different facets and ways that you can really make money in this business. The scalability of this business is also what sets it apart. Our goal for franchisees is to get to 60% recurring revenue. Right. Okay. That means your top line total sales for the year, 60% of that was through subscription-based services. So what's that mean? That means 40% of it is that general tree care, right? You're going out, you're doing pruning services, you're doing removals, you might be doing some, like, trimming and stuff like that. But the other 60% of your top line service lines are all subscription-based. That is what's going to build your business. Can you build a business just based off tree care? Yes, you absolutely can. You can have 5, 6 crews going out doing, $4 million, but it's much more profitable, and it's much easier to build when you focus on those other systems that are a little bit cheaper to scale up. And also, like, an individual person can do like $240,000. Right. When they're out there on the streets and they're going out and doing lawn care, pest control, and even plant healthcare, the lowest that one truck does is about $240 for us. So, an $80,000 investment can get you $240,000 worth of service. And so you touched about, our call center. That is another thing that's massive, right? You touched that. That's a corporate call center. That is what we like to say is they're not representing other brands. They speak Joshua Tree language, right? So that is so important, because how many times have you called a call center and you realize that you're talking to someone that really might not know about who you're talking about, right?
Dial 3 to reach the next person. Dial 6 to reach the next person. Dial 7. I'm like, all right, I give up.
Exactly. You call us and it's like you're talking to someone as if, they're your next door neighbor, right? They speak Joshua Tree language. They know all of our services. They know all of our programs. Every time we get a new franchisee on board, we talk about the new service lines in their industry. What are the primary areas in that territory? What are, like, the cities? We train our controls, our call center here. We train them about that area. So they're not just like, we almost make it seem like, yes, we live in your territory as well. And that's what we want. We want it to make it feel like a neighborhood feel, like a family feel. Another thing that we do, Josh, is we actually do sales for franchisees over the phone for lawn care and pest control through that call center. So this is something we're really excited about. Basically, tree care, there is an aspect where you have to go do a property visit, right? You have to have an account manager on site to be able to visually see all of the property and be able to detect some of those cross-sellable services. But for lawn care and pest control, we have sold those over the phone for the past 6 years. And we've been very successful in doing so because of our CRM that we utilize allows us, CRM, if you're not familiar, is a customer relationship management software.
Mhm.
That CRM allows us to do basically a Google Earth picture. It's a very like high tech looking one,
Yeah.
where we can see undulation in hills. We can really dive into the property. We can dial everything up and we could present a proposal to a client right over the phone. So we use a lot of really low cost marketing, cross marketing techniques to get those clients on the phone. And then we just pitch them right there. So we can sell 100% of lawn care and pest control for franchisees over the phone. It's just such an awesome service. Um, and then again, with that, we have an in-house recruiter as well. So, there's an aspect to, hey, we are in an industry where labor is important, right? If you don't have the
Yeah.
people out there on the job doing it, you can sell everything you want. But if you don't have the right
Yeah.
people doing the job, then you're not going to be successful. And we know how to recruit the people to do those jobs. We've been very successful. We're actually +1 in each department. So I know there's a huge labor shortage. Everyone's talking about how labor is such a problem in
Yeah.
their industries right now. We actually have extra people in every department because we've been so successful in recruiting. So
Yeah.
because we know that we can do that so well, we're offering franchisees, hey, we have a software that we use. You pay for the software, which is about $130 a month, I think. As
Mhm.
long as you pay for the software, guess what? We will recruit for you on the back end. So
Yeah.
we do everything from posting the job ad all the way up through the initial phone screens. So all we're doing is sending a list of pre-screened, experienced, qualified candidates to our franchisees to have those face-to-face interviews. Then on top of that, we provide you with interview templates.
Yeah.
We do interview training based on those templates, which are behavioral based interview training. If you've never done that, I promise it's the best interview that you'll ever have because it doesn't feel like an interview. It's very awesome. And then we also do career ladders and job descriptions. So everything is pre-built for you. You just have to utilize it, right? And so you make the decision on who you want to hire, and then we
Yeah.
hire that person. Right? It's really that simple. So it's something that we're very excited about. We've been very successful in getting franchisees
Yeah.
completely staffed. We're really excited. We just had our Pittsburgh guys in here last week doing their training, and they are already completely staffed. Right? They're
Wow.
ready to go. We posted like I think we posted like 1 or 2 job ads. And we didn't even have to post additional ones because we staffed them so well. We do something also called proactive recruiting. So we don't wait for people to just hit the job boards. We
Yeah.
use LinkedIn, resume searching, as well as like external sources to actually find people in the area that are looking for the job with the experience, education, as well as certifications that we're looking for, and we
Yeah.
can actually reach out to them, see if they're interested in talking with us.
Huh.
And then we just, have a conversation. Why are they happy at their current job? Here's how
Yeah.
we can help them get to their next career. What's the next level in their career? How can Joshua Tree experts help them actually reach that next step? So there's a ton that we've been very successful in, and
Yeah.
I helped build that program. So I was the recruiter before I did the development for the franchising. I helped build that program. Tanner, the guy who's doing it now, absolutely crushing it. So we're really excited about that for franchisees. So if you want to know more about that, you're gonna have to talk to Josh though, so that you can come talk to me.
No, that's
Um,
I no, yeah, if you want to keep going, you can, but those are amazing points. I think anyone that I think one of the biggest questions you always or I always get is why don't I just do this myself? And if you're wondering why you should franchise or start a business yourself, rewind those last 5 minutes because those are all the questions you hear from anyone. What does the ROI look like? You're already getting a sense of that. What does the lead generation look like? Most people aren't trying to be hard cold calling out in the cement, door knocking for people. So when you have those lead generation tools, that is very, very powerful. And then,
yeah.
for any business, franchise or business, the number one complaint or concern from anyone is hiring employees, especially nowadays. Everyone wants to work remote on the other side of the country and, work 2 hours a day. So, it's hard to find recruiting. So when you already have these systems, these processes in place, and really, when someone looks at the franchise fee, the royalty, you're just looking at the 18 years of experience that you guys have already made those same investments, so that all of that money that you are investing is very validated because you're getting results through that money. It's not just
Mhm.
for the franchise to just collect that money as their salary by any means. It's an investment into your own business. So when you look at like a royalty, for example, just look at the marketing fee you'd be paying if you were just a solo business owner. I guarantee it's going to be more expensive than that. Not to mention, you're going to have to figure out who to market to, how you're using those systems, where to find those customers. They already had those systems and processes in place. And then another great point that you mentioned is kind of help with real estate selection and finding that location. A lot of
Mhm.
times people feel like they need to be an expert in real estate. A lot of times I get on the call and people are like, I was just driving by this one location. I thought it could be a good location. Maybe it'll work. And they're trying to do all this Google research. And I tell them, franchises, they have like third parties, like an Esri or something along those lines where they work
Mhm.
with realtors. They know exactly what your market's going to look like. And they're not just going to award a territory to someone in a market that just won't make sense. They won't be profitable. So these are all franchises that are looking at these things for a reason. You mentioned the relationship with the BAI, working with brokers, for example.
Mhm.
No one's going to build these relationships with opportunities that aren't validating well, that aren't building these resources, the support in place. So, Dylan, I think those are all really, really great points. And kind of diving into, you kind of mentioned Joshua's experience. I'd be kind of curious, can you kind of walk us through the history of Joshua Tree when you very first started as a business to kind of when you
Mhm.
started franchising? I'd be curious. You kind of mentioned Josh's background, snowboarding,
Yeah.
kind of all very action oriented, it seems. What was the draw to, pest control and tree removal? It's not necessarily
Yeah.
the sexiest business, but we're learning it's a very profitable business. What was the draw for
Yeah.
Josh to that?
Yeah, so Josh, so to frame this, Josh has been in arboriculture specifically um, for 32 years now. So right out of high school is such a funny story. Josh, the day after he graduated high school, he was on a tree crew working the next day. I
Wow.
swear, he was in a tree literally the day after he graduated. So he had the experience of, working out in the business. He was working for other people, working for large companies, learning the system of what it takes to run a successful tree care company. He got into sales. He was very successful in sales for tree sales.
Huh.
What he realized was that he could do it. He believed in himself and he believed that he could do it better. So 18 years ago, in July of 2005, he founded Joshua Tree. So he went out on his own, invested in the equipment. He built the programs himself. Um, and he got, he got a chip truck, a plant healthcare spray rig, and he hired two other people, right? So that's how he started. He started out of a home office, which was a 3-car garage that he had these massive trucks just parked right behind his house in like a residential area. He ended up like actually looking and finding some parking nearby a little bit after that, but hey, that's how he started, right? And that's how franchisees can absolutely start like that for us as well.
Yeah.
Fast forward 3 years, he was able to find a real estate property. So really we focused on tree care and plant health care for the first, really like 12 years of this business. That's what we focused on. Through about, the 10-year mark, we had clients of ours who were asking us, can you come out and do lawn care services? Can you come out and, do my fertilization, do my aeration? I like the service that I'm experiencing with you. I like the level of communication that you guys have. We're responsive. When we say we're going to be somewhere at a certain time, we are there, right?
Yeah.
And so clients kept asking and asking. So eventually we got to a point where we're like, okay, this is not just something that people are asking for. This is a need that they have. They want to work with a better provider in the industry. So we launched officially the lawn care application service line in 2017. Again, that's where I actually initially came into the business was in 2017. So we built that up over the next 2 years. We, figured out, okay, how do you find the clients? How do you sell the clients? How do you
Yeah.
map it out? What's the service line actually look like? So we designed that program, and then in 2 more years, we had the same thing started occurring for pest control. So
Okay.
it was something that clients were asking us, okay, now you do this. Can you also by chance like come out and do my, spray for ants, spray for, I'm getting, cockroaches in the house or something like that. How do I stop stuff from coming in my house? Because that's really annoying. So what we did was we brought in an expert and we designed a program all around pest control. So that's kind of the formulation. And then what we did was we started thinking about franchising in 2020. In 2020, during the height of like COVID and stuff, we actually thought about franchising. So what we did was we originally were in 3 territories. So for us, Josh, one territory for us is 250,000 people in population.
Oh,
So
wow.
our original service area was 3. So it was about 750,000 people in our original service territory. What we did was we strategically found a place that's south of us, that's outside of our territory, didn't really have any name recognition in that area. It was 2 additional territories, about 500,000 people. And we said, what does it take to start a brand new operation for Joshua Tree in a separate market? So this was almost like our mock franchise location. So we launched another Joshua Tree Experts in a separate location to find out what is that path that we would have to go down with a franchisee. So we launched that in 2021. And then we figured out, okay, this is what it needs to take. So we officially started franchising in about 2022. We went that year. Originally we were with a different FSO. An FSO in this industry is called a franchise sales organization. Those are the people who represent your brand. We didn't find success with that brand because it's our system isn't the easiest to understand, right? There's a lot of complexity to it. It's not rocket science. It's just going out and doing tree care, lawn care, and pest control. But there is an aspect of like, you have to be inspired by what we're out there doing and how we're providing that different service, that professional feel to a client. So you have to have a little bit of a good understanding of that. So we partnered with a new FSO called Franchise Fastlane. There is a program that they offer called Carpool. Carpool specifically is basically for emerging brands who are getting into the franchise space that want to grow their business not quickly, but efficiently, right? So we're very responsible in how we want to grow. Like, for example, we only want 12 new owners this year. We're primed to be able to take on that many with our current staff, but we want to grow as our franchise system grows. We don't want our franchise system to outgrow us and not have people who are not open and not operating. So, through that growth, what we've done is, Carpool, they don't assign a brand developer. So that's why Josh asked me, hey, you know a lot about this business. You've done operations, you've been in human resources, you understand the complexities of this business. Can you go out there and talk to entrepreneurs about this? So that's when I took on this role. I've been super fortunate to be in this position. I've, in the past, so the later part of the year, it took a little time to build that up, right? Understand the franchise industry. So from like February 2023, when I accepted this, to like May, it was really just getting familiar with it, much like you. I know we kind of went through the same path together, like learning about the franchise industry. And then, when we started really getting some traction in the last 6 months of the year, we signed 5 people on. So it was one of those things. Okay, now we're picking up. We finally got people. We have an operational franchisee. We actually launched him in 67 days, which is unheard of. That's not our goal. I just want to let you know, like, also potential franchisees out there listening, our goal is 120 days, right? We execute a franchise agreement in 120 days. Our goal is to have you operational. We do not want to have any franchisees in our system that are not open within that 120-day time frame. So now we're launching 4 this spring. So it's going to be a huge spring for us. We're super excited. We're going to keep everybody busy here, but we want that momentum to continue, right? So we're looking forward to having, anywhere from 10 to 12 new owners this year would be our goal. And we are really, really excited about what 2024 has to offer. And, I think that it's going to be one of those things that once people... Dude, this thing's going to catch fire. It really is. This thing is it's going to be one of those things that when you think about, Joshua Tree Experts, it will be at some point, because Josh is so dedicated to this process. He is very, very focused on his mission. And our mission here on the franchise system is embracing lives through brand growth. So
Oh,
we want
wow.
to embrace everybody's life, whether that's personally or, in a professional aspect. We want to allow them to get back their time. We want them to have their own equity in a business. And that's what we're embraced around. We're focused on how do we build equity through
Yeah.
business ownership. And we do that through vehicles, equipment, real estate. There's
Yeah.
so much in this industry that you can really grow this out. If in 10 years you want to sell for $5-6 million, here's how you do it. Right. So we're really showing franchisees what does that growth path look like.
Yeah.
And just like Josh always says, everybody says, hey, how much money can you make in this industry? And Josh always comes back and says, how hard do you want to work? Like that's ultimately what it comes down to.
Yeah.
Because right now, I'll tell you what we're showing in our current FDD. We are showing $249,000 in profit per territory. If you have a 3 territory area, which we recommend franchisees, that means
Yeah.
the potential is $750,000 in profit.
Yeah.
So, you play out the numbers, what does that look like in top line? You're doing probably $5-6 million in services, right?
Yeah.
So, but it's like, it's not that, like, the strategic growth for that is very simple. It's not super complex. We know how to get there.
Yeah.
Franchisees just want to get there, right?
Mhm.
And that's why we partner with people who are focused on, hey, I want to grow this big brand. I want to grow an empire, something that I can either pass on to my kids if they have interest in it, or they can sell off for a really nice exit strategy.
Huh, those are some really great points. And I know the hour's starting to wind down now, so I'm trying to fit a lot in right now. But I want to start, I think it's a really good point where the last point that you mentioned, where, you have these recurring revenue based models. You mentioned kind of 60%. And, you mentioned those numbers that you could already be at with 3 territories. And that's literally just the start with kind of like a newer emerging brand. Like, can you imagine, 5, 10 years down the line when everyone in the country is aware of what the JTE brand recognition really stands for? And, you mentioned you started during a time like 2020 and COVID, where most of the mom and pops are going down under business. And that's where really the greatest entrepreneurs, the greatest business opportunities really emerge. So you can just
Mhm.
imagine, when that next down cycle comes, those mom and pops are just going to continue to hurt, where you guys have the national recognition, the brand power to just continue to grow. So it's a really
Mhm.
cool opportunity to get in basically on the ground floor right now and start
Mhm.
and scale a new emerging business with recurring revenue based models, and has all those things people are looking for in terms of the ROI, cash flow, lead generation, employees, a bunch of different participation models to get started, building up an asset. Well, excuse me, building up an asset, owning the equipment. There's a bunch of really cool elements for someone. And these are all really the things that I hear from most candidates in terms of what they're looking for. So if you're someone that's looking to really get in on the ground floor of a really cool opportunity that I think most importantly is a needs-based service. I was just
Mhm.
talking to someone yesterday with a new business idea, and it's very kind of want-based, and you have to change people's lifestyle to get them to buy that product. Whereas when something's needs-based, it's more just what does the marketing and sales look like to get people more aware? And you guys have that brand recognition, the systems in place. And you also mentioned that the association with Franchise Fastlane. And I think this is really powerful for any candidate talking to a franchise opportunity. Although the franchising industry creates hundreds of millions of jobs, it's a pretty small industry. Like, people in franchising tend to know each other. So like, I was just at the Palm Beach Atlantic, Dr. John Hayes, where, if you don't know anything about franchising, he's probably the guy to know. He's probably just the most incredible guy who's really giving back to college students, educating them about franchising, really changing the next generation of entrepreneurs. I've never seen such young people so motivated, knowing what their why is in life. And that was very powerful to me. But the point being is that, I was just at Palm Beach Atlantic, where they had the CEO of Franchise Fastlane speaking to hundreds of people in the franchising industry. And, whether it's Franchise Fastlane, another FSO, these are all people that, brokers, people like yourself, we're all connected in some way. So when you're talking to a broker, you're talking to a franchise developer, and they don't know that much about the industry, the lingo, the connections, the networking. Franchising is a small world where the people that are really doing the most, they're all very well connected with each other. And even competitors are pretty willing to share industry secrets, which I find very fascinating. So Those are all
Yeah.
really great points, Dylan. And as you know, the hour really is winding down. I want to dive into real quickly. You kind of talk about managing the candidate expectations. It could be a 120-day process. You're not looking just 2 weeks. Here's your territory, for example. What is that kind of ideal candidate that you guys are looking for right now and kind of managing those expectations?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're absolutely looking for people who want to grow. We do have a promotion that we incentivize those who want to grow in this, really large industry. If you came in here and said, "Hey, Dylan, I want to do $1 million in services and like coast through," we're not the right franchise for you, right? We want people who want to scale and grow their business to, $5-6 million. With that, we do have a promotion right now where if you buy 2 territories with us, you get the third one for free. That incentivizes owners who come into this process to be able to start with that maximum opportunity, that 3 territory area. So with that being said, another thing that we look for is like some sales acumen, just understanding. It is very consultative sales. But if franchise owners, they want to be able to develop their team, they need to understand a little bit about how sales are run, right? Business acumen as far as like accounting, back end software, understanding the systems in and of itself is important. So again, that touches back to why veterans in this franchise are going to do very well. Our second franchisee is actually a veteran. I deployed with him, and he was awesome enough. We actually kept touch after our deployment and everything, and he became our second franchisee with him and his dad. Those were the ones who were actually out here last week. So but anyway, we also look for, individuals who want to be involved in their community and give back. So one thing that we can do as a tree care provider, we're going to provide that professional image, right? So we can really give back to charities in the area who maybe can't afford, a tree care service. So really what we can do is build our brand strength through those opportunities. It really is almost like an additional marketing asset, really, when you look at that. And then also, one of the things we talk about here is, hey, we want those corporate people who want to escape that world. We have different programs that different what it looks like for each franchisee might be a little bit different. We have different models here. If you want to escape the corporate world altogether and you want to be that front-facing salesperson, we can teach you how to sell arboriculture. It's not that difficult, right? But we also have a model where, hey, maybe you want to keep your job for another couple of years, but you want to exit the corporate world. That's called the executive model, right? You can keep your job 15 to 20 hours a week. We'll show you how to run the back end. We'll show you how to understand the sales so you can develop and lead your team. But in a reality, you're keeping that, comfortable job that you're working at right now. And then you're having somebody else that go out there and actually do the sales for you. So there are different models that we can, associate to each individual franchisee. Our expectation is this, right? When we're working through the discovery process, we look at that about a 6 to 7 week process, right? Introduction call, you get a great video on the explanation of what the service is, what the franchise is in general. We make sure you're a good fit for us and we're a good fit for you to reach those goals that you and we have, right? Second call, we do what's called unit economics. That is where I provide you with a detailed introduction to what does the investment level look like? How can I fund this? As well as, what's a look at like a 3-year pro forma. So we show you how to build that out. And we give you real life data to be able to predict that pro forma out. And then the third call is really going over the franchise disclosure document as well as the territories. So we'll start looking at the software. We'll look at, what are the prime demographics in your area? Let's pick out the best areas and then really focus in on that. After that, we do what's called confirmation day. Confirmation day is where franchisees actually have an opportunity to come here to the Lehigh Valley and see the operations in person. This is such an important part of the process because it's really the final puzzle piece, right? It allows us to close out the evaluation on the franchisee as well as the franchisee to close out that evaluation on us. Do we want to partner together and marry, each other for the next 10 years? And then the final thing, the final 2 steps are really executing that franchise agreement. And then the last step is the welcome call, which for us, the welcome call is like, congratulations, we're all excited. let's jump right into marketing and recruiting, because that's the most
Yeah.
important things to get a franchise brand up and going, right? So that's kind of what they expect. As soon as we execute a franchise agreement, though, that 120-day calendar starts, and we are very focused on how do we open franchisees, how do we make them successful. So that's what it looks like.
That's awesome, Dylan. I'm super excited. I love the different participation models. I know the hour's finally over, so if you have a call right now, feel free to drop off. But I usually
Oh,
like to
I'm good,
just
Brandon.
quickly summarize the call because I think, some really great points. And I love the different participation models because some people, like you said, are in corporate America. They want to escape their corporate role in the next 2 weeks, whereas some people are not comfortable making that somewhat risk and, just leaving their corporate job. They want to continue to have that salary until they can kind of maintain that salary through another stream of income. So having those different participation models, different ways to get started, I think are just really powerful for candidates thinking about franchising. And I think, like you said, it's very needs-based service. You don't need to be in love with the idea of trees and pest removal, but you just need to be in love with the idea of being a business owner, executing a business plan. You have the systems, the SOPs that you mentioned. So I think that's really powerful. And I really, really like just the mindset that you've gone through in life. Your current situation doesn't determine the end game. Staying consistent, having daily habits, starting with kind of what that why is, and then making sure those daily habits align with that why statement, surrounding yourself with people that are living the life that you want to live and finding ways, I want to live that life. There's some different ways that you can improve it along the way. And not having that ego where it's like, I need to do everything my way or the highway, or I need to start everything by myself. I find a lot of impact, working with other people and helping them lift their business up as well. So I think that's really powerful. And, just this idea of things that, they can happen for a reason. And it's really up to us what we do with those events. And, Dylan, it's very clear you're someone with a very strong mindset. So I appreciate you taking the time to join me on the Conquer the Mind podcast. I really do think the viewers, not only on franchising, but just in terms of life advice, I think this is a really great episode for someone trying to find their why. Someone might be struggling, trying to get to that other side. Because what I always say is, when you're in the gray days, it's so hard to get out of the gray days. Once you're having good days, you start to build the momentum. It's super easy to get out of bed early and kind of attack that day. But when you're having those gray days, it's so hard. And I think it just comes down to just reflecting and, looking around and seeing, who's living that potential life you want to live and starting to surround yourself with those people. So Dylan, I don't know if you have any final words, but I really enjoyed the hour. I learned a ton myself. I have a full page of notes.
Hey man, I just want to end by saying thank you again so much, Josh. I think, just to recap what you said, what you're doing as well with how you, interact with clients, how you, evaluate brands, you're doing it the right way. So, if you're out there, you're listening, Josh is going to help you find that franchise, right? It might not be Joshua Tree Experts, which is totally fine, but his portfolio of what he's doing in this industry is he's going to be very successful in it. And I just want to say thank you for having me on. It's been a pleasure getting to talk all things, life, franchising. It's always a great opportunity. So thank you, brother. I appreciate that. And let's get after it and let's get this day started. I'm excited, man. It's only 9 o'clock on
Yeah.
on a Monday morning. I'm ready to go. You know what
Yeah,
I'm saying?
me too. Usually these podcasts are recorded. This is the first one I've done on a Monday morning. I've done one podcast on a Monday, but it was a Monday afternoon. Typically they're like
Yeah.
a Thursday or a Friday morning. So people have a lot more energy. But Monday morning, that's what I love so much about franchising. People are just so happy. It's not like a corporate America role where, you feel like you're walking on eggshells with what you can say, what you can do.
Right.
Everyone is very down to earth and personable where, it just makes the role so much easier to talk to people. Like, in corporate America, I can't imagine just having people speak an hour freely about their career and their insights, their experiences. So I
Yep.
think that's really powerful. And just one final thing, franchising may or may not be for you, but we have the education, the discovery process so that you can make that educated decision. You may say your 9 to 5 is going to get you where you want to be, but just look at that 3 to 5 year plan and will franchising get you where you want to be, or will your current position get you where you want to be? So Dylan, I had an awesome time. Episode 23 is in the books. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. Make sure to like, share, comment, subscribe, help out the algorithm. Go subscribe to Dylan on YouTube on the Franchise Happy Hour, where I also appeared. So if you want to watch us talk for another full hour, feel free to tune in there too.
Thanks a lot, brother. I appreciate it.